So it's Tuesday night now. This day went by so fast. I had a lot of running around to do that wasn't expected. So I didn't get a lot of reading done. But I've decided to listen to an audiobook. I've got SPQR, History of Ancient Rome by Mary Beard. I love Mary Beard documentaries, so I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy this audiobook. I recently saw her documentary about Pompeii, which was really good too, so that's pretty cool. I've read some of The Great Hunt. I want to get this finished this month. Anyways, I didn't read my Heinrich Ibsen play just because I didn't. I'm sick of coming up with excuses. I just didn't read it. I did read a comic, Lois Lane from 1986. There's just 2 issues. Which is disappointing because it was quite a good story. And it's about Lois Lane using journalism to solve crimes. And it got me thinking, too, like, everyone's like, why don't you call in Superman, you know? And she's just, like, you know, the point of the issue was, you know, no, I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to use journalism to do this and do the research and get this story exposed and find this information and stuff like that. But when we look at superheroes, they're not dealing with, like, real-life crimes. They're not dealing with the kidnapping of children or, you know, maybe they'll start off, you know, dealing with muggers and stuff like that, but eventually they don't bother. And they don't deal with, you know, normal murders and stuff. They always have to deal with, like, supervillains. So it was really interesting seeing, like, Lois Lane, who's not a superhero, but is, you know, has that kind of status, dealing with a real life crime in a realistic way. So it was quite interesting. I'm sad that it didn't get beyond 2 issues though. And I think tonight I am just going to read more comics. I'm just tired.
A visitor from Athens or Alexandria in Egypt, which did have many buildings in the style of Macaré's painting, would have found the place unimpressive, not to say squalid. It was such a breeding ground of disease that a later Roman doctor wrote that you didn't need to read textbooks.
So it's Wednesday. Do you ever say it Wednesday when you're writing it out? I do. Anyways, I read the last Ibsen play, The Master Builder, which is a more personal story again, as opposed to a political story like some of the other ones in here. And it's about this master builder, this man who's, like, he's just below an architect. He doesn't have formal training, but he's, like, top in the town, in the builder world, I guess. And he's so worried about the younger generation coming in and, like, making him obsolete that he does things that he shouldn't to stop their success. And he's also really creepy with women, especially younger women. And, like, at one point, a 12-year-old. I've made some good leeway into The Great Hunt. I'm on chapter 7 right now. I'm trying to read about 50 pages a day. I'm not pressuring myself too much. And I have about 30 pages to go. There's some books, you know, that you can read 50 pages of in like 30 minutes and it's all good. This takes much longer. And then I read some comics today. I read a lot today. I read the first issue of Excellence, which is about wizards, and this guy actually comes into his power late, to the disappointment of his father. But the main point of the wizards is that they are going to protect people. So it's interesting dynamic there. And then I also read The Immortal Hulk, the volume called Or Is He Both? which is literally about how the Hulk cannot die. And he goes around, sorry about the glare, and he goes around, you know, solving individual crimes as the Hulk, dying and then coming back. So that's it. I also listened to a bit more of Parable while I was doing some work on the computer, and I started listening to SPQR by Mary Beard today, and I'm enjoying it so far. So it's Thursday night, and for various reasons, I didn't get much read today. I did read the 5 parts of this comic called, you can't really see it there, Underwinter, which has beautiful art, which is really the only reason I kept reading it. This is one of my favorite pages here. Because the story, the way I look at it is that, you know how some people, they'll just come up to you and say something and it doesn't make any sense? Like, you're just like, okay, I don't understand. But the person, like, in their head knew what they were trying to say, but you didn't have the context of what's going on in their head, right? That's how I feel about that. It's like we're missing a lot of context. Like, the author knows the story and knows what he wants to get across, but he's not doing that very well on the page. I was glad at one point that there was a summary of what was going on. I was like, oh, so that's what's going on. Like, okay. And then the last issue, I think it suffered from the early cancellation thing, where you have like 4 issues that are going like quite slowly, and then a whole bunch is crammed into the 5th issue, or the last issue, however many issues there are. So they have to wrap up the story really fast. I've also been listening to SPQR while driving, and it's interesting because it's about Roman history, and a lot of what she talks about is about what earlier historians are talking about, like Roman historians, ancient Roman historians, and fellows around that time, what they've wrote about, and trying to kind of like impose this narrative that fits their current political atmosphere. And even she talks about playwrights after she talks about Ibsen, actually, and Ben Jonson writing about Cicero and Catiline, and how their political ideologies influenced how they viewed that history. So it's Friday, and I'm sitting in a parking lot again, just because I have to go see people at specific times. So sometimes this is what I have to do. Wait. So I'm listening to SBQR while I'm sitting here waiting. I'm incredibly tired, so I hope my thoughts are coherent right now. I just wanted to share 2 points. First of all, it's really interesting because SBQR about the Roman history relies a lot on talking about other historians writing about Roman history and the prejudices and stuff that they brought, other historians had brought to telling the stories, like the Aeneid and all the different versions of the Romulus and Remus legends, and how we try and impose a narrative on things. Like the Aeneid is a piece of history, but it's also like a work of fiction. So it has to have a beginning and a middle and an end. And yes, history will have a beginning and a middle and an end, but it's not always so straightforward, if you know what I mean. And there's another part of the narrative and storytelling in history that gets imposed on history sometimes, and even up to our modern day, is that we have the good guy and we have the bad guy. And it doesn't seem like there's a lot of room for nuance and stuff like that. So that's interesting. It's like human beings are themselves nuanced. Not everyone is 100% bad. Not everyone is 100% good. And so, like, that's reflected in the history as well. Like, history's not always very straightforward. This is good and this is bad. So yeah, I just think it's really interesting listening to that. Raining. I'm out in the middle of nowhere visiting a patient, and I've locked my keys in the car. It's going to take my brother and future sister-in-law about 20 minutes to get here. So I'm spending my Friday afternoon now. So it's Saturday night, and I didn't get any reading done. I didn't even really do any driving, so no, I have a car. Sorry, it's like 11:30 at night. It's way past my bedtime. But today I hung out with family. I hung out with my mom and my oma, and then I hung out and had pizza at my brother's. And then I worked on this book journal thing that I've set up. These are Smash journals. I have like 7 of them that are full, and I've have all these craft supplies, and I thought I need to start using them again, so I decided to make a book journal. So this is the cover I did, and then I did the inside pages. It's like an old library thing. Pull out yeah, stickers there, and then decided I'm gonna do it for books that I've read. So I've recently finished Robin Hood, so I have this Robin Hood thing. These are actually African deers, but they were the only deer things I had. So, and then I had these coaster things, and I wasn't using them, so I decided to just pull out the pictures and use those in my page. Yeah. So that's what I did on Saturday night. Hello, it is now Sunday night, and I'm just giving you an update of what I read today. I read some of The Great Hunt, which is the second book in the Wheel of Time series, while I was doing laundry. And then I read Superman Peace on Earth, which is a comic. And the art is great, but the story was very kind of naive, because it's about Superman trying to battle world hunger, but he doesn't quite grasp that you can't just go around handing out food. It's not that easy. It's just a picture of the art. It's a little glary there, sorry. It's hard to show pictures on tablets. And then I did some more Smash booking. I'm just going to show you the book-related ones. So, I recently read The Immortal Hulk, so I had to do a Hulk page. Because the Hulk is awesome. And then, because I read Superman, and I read a lot of Superman comics anyways, I did this one. And this one opens up because I had this cool article from a newspaper called The Birth of Superman, which is all just about how Superman was created. And then there's just like Superman stuff. Oh, and he's falling. Yeah. Yeah, so there's Superman. So yeah, it's just something fun I like to do occasionally. And for the rest of the night, probably gonna read comics. So it's Monday, and I'm just gonna wrap this vlog up by showing you what I read today, and that was mostly comics. So here we have Art Ops. I read the 12 issues that are available for this, and it's basically art is real. In the sense that the people and the objects and the things in it are like as real as you and me. Not just inspired by real things, but like you can extract, say, Mona Lisa from the painting. And it's with this group called the Art Ops that have to save art against the various forces against it. So that was interesting. And then I read I Hate Fairyland, Volume 3 and 4. This is the cover for Volume 3, Good Girl. And it's basically about this character here, Gert. So if you've read the Shannon Maguire series, where the children get taken to fantasy lands and then get returned, This is about what happens if the girl doesn't get returned back to her home, and she spent 30 years in this form, in this land, and she absolutely hates it. And it's really funny because she's like this super kind of cute character, but then there's a lot of like violence and blood and all sorts of fun stuff going on. These ads are getting more intrusive now. Yes, I read volumes 3 and 4 of that. Unfortunately, there's no more, and it sucks. Also, today, I read Spider-Man Deadpool Isn't It Romantic, which sees Deadpool trying to befriend Spider-Man, while also trying to kill Peter Parker, because Deadpool doesn't know the secret identities yet. Yeah, so it's Deadpool trying to be a good guy, and screwing up massively. And then I've been reading this series called The Unwritten, and I believe this is volume 4. It's called Leviathan. He goes, so this character is also a fictional character. He's the embodiment of his father's work of fantasy, the character from that. And he can travel in and out of books and through books and bring out characters. There's a lot of introductory pages here. Yeah. So that's interesting. If you're into fables at all, I'd highly recommend that you read Unwritten as well. If you're done with fables, or if you want to read something similar to it, because you get a lot of the fictional characters, even the sentient, sapient, I think is the correct word, animals and stuff like that as well. It's pretty cool. And I finally read this one that I've been meaning to read for a while, Usagi Yojimbo, crossovers with the Ninja Turtles. So this is Usagi Yojimbo. He was created by Stan Sakai, and he's a samurai rabbit in feudal Japan, which is populated solely with sapient animals, and occasionally the Ninja Turtles are brought in to help him. So it's really cool. There are a lot of really short stories. The first few are in black and white, just like that. And then eventually there is a color one, and that is a longer story. It's a long comic. And the longer story is really cool because it deals with Japanese mythology of this giant catfish causing earthquakes, and they have to stop it. So it's quite cool. Yeah, so those are the comics I read today, and that's the end of this week's vlog. Hope you have a good week, and I'll see you next week.